The Book Visitors, Chapter 5, The Book Visit. The bluebird fluttered down from its perch on the some of the right bookshelf, resting on Twyla's hand. Twyla and the bluebird twittered back and forth for a moment, and then Twyla spoke to us. "Here we go," Twyla said gaily. "I'm ready. You'll enjoy this visit. I certainly will. Charlie, hold my right hand. Melody, hold Charlie's hand. We cannot make the jump unless we're touching." "What do you mean, jump?" I asked. "Don't ask many questions. We need to get busy." "How do I hold your hand?" Charlie asked Twyla. "My hands are way bigger than yours." "I shall hold your finger," Twyla said. "When the three of us are touching, we can travel in and out of books." Twyla was standing on the table beside the book, Anne of Green Gables. She held Charlie's finger. I was nervous, but if my grandfather thought visiting books with Twyla was okay, then it must be okay. Anything that involves imagination, my grandfather's books and the bow window, must be good for us. "Are you taking your bluebird?" I asked. "Of course," Twyla answered. "Bluebird goes with me everywhere. She knows only things little birds know." "Here we go," said Twyla. "Hold tight. Don't let go for a second. Hold tight. Don't let go." And that's how our first book visit started. I can hardly describe what was going on in my body and mind because things happened so fast. Charlie and I will do the best we can to tell you exactly what happened. As Twyla held Charlie's finger, she literally jumped onto the open book, Anne of Green Gables, right into the middle, the very same book that had been flying in front of Grandpa's house a few minutes ago. It was a peculiar moment indeed. When Twyla jumped onto the book and into the book, she pulled Charlie and me with her. Jumping into a book felt like holding a friend's hand on the edge of a swimming pool as we jumped into the water at the deep end. When Twyla jumped, her little feet didn't stop on the top page. No, that's not what happened. When Twyla jumped, Charlie and I went down with her, down, 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 into the paper, under the paper. We sank deep into the pages of the book, just as if the book had been a deep pool of water. After going down for quite a while, I felt my feet touch bottom. Since we weren't in a pool of water, I suppose my feet must have touched the bottom of the book, or maybe the back cover. It was a strange feeling I can't explain. As we were going down, I was wondering if I could drown in the pages of a book. I hoped Charlie and I would be safe. I didn't want to drown in water or paper. After my feet touched bottom, I couldn't see a thing. It was as if we were in a dense fog, a fog so thick you could hardly see your hand in front of your face. Slowly, the fog began to clear. This is what we saw. Charlie, Twyla, and I were in the back of a horse-drawn buggy bouncing down an unpaved road. The air smelled of springtime. It was morning. In front of us were two people. Charlie tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Melody, we're in the back of a horse-drawn buggy. Where are we? Do you know where we are?" Twyla answered, "That's Marilla and Anne Shirley. You haven't read Anne of Green Gables, or you would know this is the part at the beginning where Marilla is taking Anne back to the asylum. You wanted to visit a book? I heard you. That's what you both said you wanted when you were sitting on the brick wall beside the bow window, so here you are, just as you imagined." I whispered to Twyla, "I understand, Twyla, but can't they hear us talking?" Twyla smiled. "No, silly, they can't hear us. We're book visitors. Book characters can't see or hear book visitors unless I arrange it with the author. Book characters never know what book visitors are in their book. It wouldn't be proper if someone read about two children in a book conductor from the future riding in the back of Marilla's buggy. That would never do. That would make Anne of Green Gables science fiction. Lucy Montgomery would never approve. She didn't write science fiction. Authors do not normally allow that sort of thing. Therefore, we're invisible to the characters and invisible to the reader. We can hear, see, and enjoy. Isn't that what you wanted?" Twyla said proudly. "Yes," Charlie answered. "We wanted to go inside of a book. Are you sure they can't hear or see us?" Twyla laughed, a small, tinkling kind of laugh. No, silly, they can't see or hear us, but we can listen to them talk and see everything they see. You can smell everything they smell. You can touch the things around you and hear the sounds and see the colors, just like the author intended. You can experience everything the characters experience. You're in the book. Writers love book visitors. That's who they write for. Good writers make book visiting fun. Good authors make reading like a private cinema inside your head. You wanted to be inside of a book? Well, here you are. Enjoy. Be Lucy Montgomery's guest. As we bounced along in the back of the wagon, I was hoping Charlie would like Anne of Green Gables. If Charlie had read it before a book visit, he would know what's going on and enjoy our unusual opportunity. I hadn't read the entire book, but I will when I get home. Last night I read a few pages at the beginning, but I knew immediately I would love the book and love Anne. She and I and Charlie would be friends if we were to meet. There's one more thing you should know. When we finally got inside the book, Charlie and I were the same size as Twyla. I think Twyla was bigger and we were smaller. It felt strange for all three of us to be the same size, but I rather liked it. It was much easier to communicate. As we bounced along in the back of the buggy, we listened to Anne using her imagination as she talked to Marilla. Marilla didn't say much. Anne rambled on and on, talking about different things. "Do you know," said Anne, "I've made up my mind to enjoy this drive. It's been my experience. You can nearly always enjoy things if you make up your mind firmly that you will. Of course, you must make it up firmly. I am not going to think about going back to the asylum while we're having our drive. I'm just going to think about the drive." Charlie was curious. "What's going on, Melody?" Charlie asked. I was glad Charlie was interested, and I told him everything I knew. "Marilla and Matthew are brother and sister and live on their deceased parents' farm on Prince Edward Island," I answered. "They never married and never left the farm. Matthew is an old bachelor and Marilla a spinster. Because they had no children, they had no one to inherit the farm, and they decided to adopt an orphan boy to help with the farm, a boy who would inherit their property after their death. There was a mix-up at the asylum. Instead of the boy they requested, the orphanage sent a girl. They sent Anne. Marilla was angry about the mistake. They didn't want a girl. Anne wouldn't be much help on the farm. Matthew liked Anne, but Marilla was angry about the mistake. Marilla intended to take the orphan girl back and exchange her for the boy she had asked for, the boy they needed to help them with the heavy work on the farm. When I explained to Charlie what was happening, he was even more curious and, like me, felt sorry for Anne. She was a skinny little girl with bright red hair and freckles, small for her age. "Is Marilla really taking Anne back to that dreadful orphanage?" Charlie asked incredulously. "What a horrible disappointment." "I don't know what's going to happen, Charlie. I haven't read that far. It sure looks bad for Anne. We're on the road that will take Anne back to the orphanage. That's all I know. Marilla's in a hurry, and you can tell something is bothering her. I think Marilla is angry because they sent a girl instead of a boy. Marilla never married and never had children. She likes to have things her own way." About that time, Anne began talking again, but it wasn't really a conversation with Marilla. Anne was chattering on and on about different things. Marilla was silent with a stern look on her face as she drove the horse at a fast clip along the bumpy road. When Anne would ask Marilla a question, Marilla answered in single words. I felt sorry for Anne. It must be rotten to grow up in an orphanage and after years of disappointment get news you're to be adopted only to find yourself being returned. Once again, unwanted, unloved. That would be crushing. As Marilla drove silently, Anne said brightly, "Look at that one little early wild rose. Wouldn't it be nice if roses could talk? I'm sure they could tell us such lovely things." Anne was using her imagination. I wondered what Marilla was thinking. Anne kept talking. She rattled on about her life and her parents' names and that she was glad her parents had good names. Marilla said it didn't much matter what a person's name was so long as that person behaved themselves. That's when I heard Anne say something I still remember. "Well, I don't know about that." I read in a book once that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, but I've never been able to believe it. I don't believe a rose would be as nice if it was called a thistle or skunk cabbage. I couldn't believe I was actually inside of a book, listening, watching, and seeing the things that Lucy Montgomery had imagined when she wrote Anne of Green Gables. I felt a privilege, an awe I had never felt before in my life. That feeling of wonderment made me want to write a story of my own. I felt like I wanted to go straight home and imagine things, to write a story I could go inside of anytime I wished. I wanted to create my own characters and make them my friends. We could have conversations and go on adventures together. I would write my characters so that they would visit me every night before I went to sleep. That would be fun. Just about that time, everything became fuzzy. A fog came in and we couldn't see or hear anything. Marilla and Anne disappeared. I felt Charlie holding my hand. We were frightened. Melody, I can't see or hear anything. Where did Anne and Marilla go? Charlie asked. I don't know. I can't see or hear anything either. It's like the thickest fog in the world. What's happening? We heard Twyla's voice. Don't worry, you two. This is just a book fog. It's time to go to the next book. That's what the fog means. There's no need to be alarmed. It's normal when traveling between books. We can't stay here on Prince Edward Island all day, Twyla said calmly. Oh, but Twyla, please can't we stay? I want to find out what happens. Please. I want to know if Marilla will really take Anne back to that horrible asylum and exchange her for a stupid boy. Will Anne get to live at Green Gables? I want to know. Please let us stay. We have to stay. Can't you take us back to the book? No, I can't take you back, but I can tell you Marilla is determined to return Anne to the asylum. Other than that, I'm not allowed to tell you anything more. You'll have to read for yourself if you want to know what happens. It's a good story with a lot of twists and turns. You'll like it. Now, what book do you want to do next? Any suggestions? You two will have to decide. As much as I would like to, I can't make your decision for you. Charlie answered quickly. I was thinking Treasure Island or The Wizard of Oz or maybe Captain's Courageous. I like those books. Your wish is my command, said Twyla lightly. Hold on to your boots. Here we go. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face because of the book fog, but nothing happened. There was no whoosh or anything. The fog continued as silent and dense as ever. We couldn't see or hear a thing. As far as I could tell, we were sitting still. We weren't going anywhere or doing anything. All I could hear was the faint twittering of the little bluebird and Twyla twittering back as if comforting her little friend. How long will we be in this fog? Charlie asked. What's happening? It won't be foggy long. We're well underway to the next book. Listen and be courageous, matey. That's my advice. I think I'll bring her into the wind and drop anchor right here. This appears a good berth, Twyla said softly. Charlie, where are you? I whispered nervously. I'm right here beside you, Charlie answered. Did you hear that? I heard something. What was it? I think it was some kind of foghorn, and I heard bells ringing in the distance. I smelled the sea. I began to feel a chill wind. I was nervous as I held Charlie's hand and he held mine. I didn't realize visiting books could be so scary. I wouldn't want to go on a book visit alone. I was glad Charlie was with me. I had a suspicion about our location. I put two and two together. Charlie, I whispered, I think you have your wish. If that was a foghorn, and if that's the sea we smell, then we must be inside Captain's Courageous or Treasure Island. I think you're right, Melody. I definitely smell the ocean. I think I heard the sound of waves. We must be on a ship or some kind of vessel. I can feel the boat rocking under our feet. I smell fish. I can too, I answered. I feel the wind on my face. I hear voices and it's getting light. The fog's going away. As it began to get lighter, Charlie and I could see we were on a large fore and aft rigged sailing vessel. There were two people standing at the back, the quarterdeck I think it's called. An angry young man was talking to an older, taller man. The older man was the captain. Charlie pulled me close and whispered, Melody, you're right. I think this is Captain's Courageous at the beginning. Listen. Not only could Charlie and I listen to the sounds of the sea and the conversation, but now that the fog had cleared, we could also see. The boy was about Charlie's age. He had pulled up from the water by one of the fishermen who had been out in a little dory. The boy was arguing in a loud voice with the captain. The unhappy boy was telling the captain he had fallen overboard from a transatlantic passenger steamer and demanding the captain take him home. The name of the schooner was the We're Here, out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. The unhappy boy, whose name was Harvey, told the captain his father was rich and would pay a great deal of money to anyone who returned him to New York. The boy didn't want to stay on this dirty little fishing boat a minute longer than he had to. The patient captain, Disco Troop, didn't seem to be upset by the insolent tone of the boy. Charlie and I could tell the captain felt sorry for the boy and was puzzled by the young man's demanding attitude. I think the captain thought the boy had hit his head when he fell and wasn't in his right mind. About that time, Harvey began searching his pockets for his money, the money he said his mother had given him before he fell. Harvey said he had $134. That's when the boy made his big mistake. He accused Captain Disco of stealing his money and insisted the captain give it back immediately. Although Harvey was a boy, he threatened the mature captain with all kinds of terrible things if the captain didn't abandon his summer's fishing and take him to New York immediately. Harvey said his father would have the captain arrested for kidnapping, piracy, and theft otherwise. Although the boy was ordering the captain to take him to the mainland immediately, as if the captain himself had thought the unfortunate boy might not be in his right mind. The captain kindly told Harvey it wasn't possible to return until they had finished the season and the ship's hold was full of salted cod. Captain Troop patiently told Harvey the We're Here would be fishing on the Grand Banks the entire summer and that Harvey had no choice but to become part of the crew and work. Harvey would be paid an honest wage, as much as $35 at the end of the summer's cruise, if he worked hard. That's the best the captain could offer the unhappy boy. Captain Troop kindly told Harvey it was 1,000 miles back to the mainland, and there were 8 men on the We're Here depending on the summer's cod fishing for their livelihood. The schooner was not going to New York. To tell the truth, I don't think Captain Troop believed the boy's story. I probably wouldn't have believed him either. Well, Harvey didn't like what the captain was saying. Harvey got right up in the captain's face, shouting up that he wasn't going to do any menial work on this dirty slave ship and that they were all a bunch of thieves and pirates. Then, as nicely as you please, the captain asked Harvey once again if he would work on the schooner. We could tell the captain was sympathetic, but he was becoming tense. I couldn't blame him. Up until now, the captain had given Harvey the benefit of the doubt in everything, thinking the boy was imagining things because of a nasty bump on the head. Well, Harvey became even more upset because he couldn't force the captain to take him back to New York. In an even louder, hateful voice and using bad language, the boy shouted into the captain's face that he would do exactly as he pleased and the captain must take him to New York immediately or answer in a court of law for gross stupidity. When the boy finished his demands, he stamped his foot for good measure and crossed his arms on his chest with an air of superiority. What happened next was a surprise. I suppose the captain didn't know what to do. The blow to Harvey's face happened quicker than we could see. We heard the thump, and then we saw Harvey land on his back on the deck with his nose bleeding profusely. Then we heard Dan, the captain's son, helping Harvey down to the cabin, explaining that Harvey was fortunate it was only his nose. Dan explained to the injured Harvey that he would have to get used to the idea of working on the schooner all summer and that his father was an honest and fair man. That's when the fog came in again, and I wasn't sure if it was a sea fog or a book fog. After a minute, we realized it was a book fog, and we knew we were finished with Captain Courageous. I was so disappointed. I wanted to stay. Twyla told us if we wanted to find out what happened to Harvey on the We're Here, we would have to read the book when we got back to Grandpa's house. Would Captain Troop take Harvey back to New York? Would Harvey end up cod fishing all summer? What happened to Harvey's money? Did Captain Troop steal it? Would Harvey's father put Captain Troop in jail? I can't wait to find out what happened. Rudyard Kipling is a good author. I can't believe I haven't read his books before now. Where shall we go next? Charlie asked Twyla. This is fun. Let's visit another book. I'll take you anywhere you want to go, Twyla replied. I'd like to go inside Peter Pan, I suggested. You two talk it over. We can go into any book on your grandfather's Some of the Right Books list. Charlie and I discussed which book we wanted next. Charlie wanted Treasure Island. I wanted Peter Pan. Both are adventurous. Both have sailing ships and pirates. We finally decided on Peter Pan. Twyla smiled at our decision. Eventually, everyone wants to go inside Peter Pan, she said, but that's okay with me. No matter how many times I go inside Peter Pan, I'm never bored. I never tire of going inside good books. Your grandfather says a good book is worth reading again and again and again. Mr. Barry is one of his favorites, mine too. He has an excellent imagination, don't you think? When Mr. Barry and I visit, he always has an exciting yarn to share. I love his stories. Twyla, I have a confession, Charlie said quietly. I've never read Peter Pan. I could tell Charlie was embarrassed to admit he had never read such a famous book. What? What did you say? You haven't read Peter Pan? What in the world have you been doing with your time? Too much television, video games, and sports, I suppose. You need to use your thinker more and your watcher less. Everyone should read books like Peter Pan. Twyla held our hands. Okay, here we go, and not a minute too soon, she said. I'm not sure what happened next, but the fog began to clear. We still couldn't see anything, but we could hear children playing. I knew instantly it was Peter, Wendy, John, and Michael in their upstairs bedroom. The children were trying to fly. Peter was laughing as he jumped off the bed and fell with a thump, trying to imitate him. After a few bumps and bruises, Peter blew fairy dust over the children, and they flew easily. It was interesting to listen as they talked excitedly about their newfound ability to fly. It was exactly like the book. We loved it. They flew around the room, touched the ceiling, laughing all the while, and before long, Peter asked them to follow him to Neverland. Peter said the lost boys needed a mother. All three children followed Peter out the window into the star-studded night. I heard Peter say, "Second on the right and on till morning." They were going to Neverland. What a great adventure. Twyla, Charlie, and I followed close behind as Peter, Wendy, John, and Michael flew over London in the clear night air under the stars. I've never experienced anything as exhilarating as flying over that magnificent city with a sky full of stars above me and the silhouette of the big city below. I couldn't believe what was happening. Charlie and I were flying inside Peter Pan, one of the most famous books ever. It was an amazing feeling. By dim starlight, I could see the outline of the great dome of St. Paul's Cathedral and the myriads of smoking chimney pots of the great city, thousands upon thousands of glittering stars that were bigger, brighter, and closer than I had ever seen before. Suddenly, directly above us, we heard the sound of rushing wind. Something enormous was blocking the starlight. I trembled. Whatever it was had a huge wing spread that cast an inky black shadow, silent, menacing. A tangible darkness above us that seemed to blot out half the sky. I shuddered once again. I could hear Bluebird's rapid twittering as we flew, its tone more high-pitched than usual. Its twittering seemed frantic compared to the playful sounds we had heard in Grandpa's dining room. Out of the ghostly shadow above us, we heard a rasping, grating noise, like uneven, hard surfaces scraping against one another, like huge, long fingernails scratching down a massive chalkboard. The unsettling sound sent shivers up my spine. I had no idea what the wraith-like shadow meant, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Soon after we heard the disquieting noises, the foul odor of decaying flesh enveloped us. I thought I would throw up. Charlie and I heard the continued twittering of the frantic little bluebird. As we flew in the darkness, Twyla pulled Charlie and me close to her side. "Listen to me," Twyla whispered urgently as we flew on in the darkness. "Something vile is flying above us. Bluebird has confirmed my suspicions. The disgusting reek can only be that of the book dragon. We are in grave danger." "What's the book dragon doing inside our book visit? I don't understand," Charlie said. Shh, warned Twyla as she clamped her hand over Charlie's mouth. We could tell Twyla was worried. Don't talk. Listen. The book dragon must not hear us. If he learns our exact location, we will be captives for life, a fate worse than death. He's on our trail, but he doesn't yet know where we are. Hold my hand. We must fly quickly to elude this dreadful adversary. Be courageous. We must leave Peter Pan for somewhere safe. Bluebird has warned me. We have not a moment to lose. I didn't understand what was happening, but I did understand Twyla's fear. Why was the book dragon after us? Why did we have to go somewhere safe? Why were we in such danger? Why couldn't we go back home? Where was Grandfather? I didn't like the alarm I heard in Twyla's voice.